Stasis, our first foray into wielding the darkness, the power to create walls of crystals and freeze an entire room of enemies and watch as they explode and shatter. All of this is underwhelming. But why is that? We first saw Stasis in Beyond Light, where it was revealed to heavily focus on crowd control with its main keywords being slow, freeze, and shatter. Admittedly, these are all still very strong keywords even today, but let's just take a quick look at our second darkness subclass, Strand. Strand was introduced to us in Nightfall, with its own powerful keywords in the form of Suspend, Sever, and Unravel, and two of these keywords are incredibly close to those of Stasis. Sever and Slow are pretty much the same in that they lower an enemy combatant's damage output, and the same goes for Freeze and Suspend. Suspend is basically just a better version of Freeze in that it holds the target in the air for a long period of time before dropping them. Granted, you do not get damage when enemies are released from Suspend like you do with Freeze and Shatter, though in high-end content this damage can prove negligible. Freeze can also be applied in an area of effect with such things as dust field grenades that every class gets access to, though Suspend can be applied in more ways than Freeze, with each class having access to a myriad of ways to apply Suspend. Not to mention the fact that the legendary fusion rifle, the Riptide, can apply both Slow and Freeze without needing to be on a Stasis subclass if it rolls with the perk Chill Clip. That's the problem with Stasis, there's no point in using it. Whenever the subclass outshines Stasis and you get the benefits of Slow and Freeze from a legendary weapon, why bother? And with Stasis receiving very little to no buffs over the course of the Witch Queen and Lightfall, it's largely been forgotten. Another problem Stasis runs into is its lack of exotic armor options made specifically for it. Right now, every class has two, which just isn't enough, especially considering a few of these exotics are just way too niche or just bad. Exotics like the Wrath Weavers on Warlock or the Mask of Baccharis on Hunter are just not enough. Adding a few more exotics that are made specifically for Stasis would go a long way in diversifying the builds that can be done with it and would bring a lot of people back to try out some new builds. So, where does this leave Stasis? Currently, Stasis is in a rough spot, as it lacks a purpose in most content. Its main purpose was taken away from it, and it struggles to see any relevance because of that. It doesn't have the survivability of Solar or Void, and it lacks the destructive power of Arc. In short, Stasis needs help, and I think Bungie knows this. But how do we fix Stasis? Well, I have a few ideas. Firstly, they should revert the changes they made to it that make its abilities come back slower than every other subclass. I get why this change was made, but the game has evolved in a way where this change makes no sense. Secondly, nerf Strand. Bungie has actually said they're looking into doing this, but we've yet to see the results of this, as they're coming next season. Strand being the way that it is just leaves no room for Stasis. Lastly, provide more Stasis fragments and aspects and make them relatively easy to obtain. The main pain point of acquiring fragments for Stasis is the quest being tedious. Simply giving us options to buy new fragments and aspects from LC Bray would go a long way in bringing people back to try Stasis again. This last change would at least make people interested in revisiting Stasis to see all the new fragments and aspects even if they don't use them. All in all, Stasis is in a rough spot right now. Not that it's unusable by any means, very little in Destiny is, it's simply outclassed by much better options. I only hope that Bungie recognizes these problems and brings Stasis up to the power that it deserves, and I can go back to using the subclasses that I love without feeling as though it's being neglected. But let me know what you think. Is Stasis in a good spot currently, or does it need a few things that I didn't mention? Let me know and I'll be back to talk some more another time.